presentation, which is titled Award-Winning Business Award Submissions, or what I was going to call it was going to be Buying a New Dress Without Feeling Guilty. I have spoken about this before at the Exchange event in Sydney, and that's what I called my presentation, Buying a New Dress Without Feeling Guilty. Of course, it was a targeted audience of mostly women. And so I think that business awards is the perfect opportunity for you to buy yourself a new dress, but you've got to be in it to win it. And that's what we're talking about today. So first of all, I want to make clear that whilst I have experience entering the Telstra Business Awards, the Telstra Business Women's Awards, and also my local business chamber awards, the stuff that I'm talking about is, it's not just related to local business awards or the business awards that I've entered, but you can really use the information and the knowledge and the things that we're talking about to really level up your game in terms of all of the business awards opportunity. And all you have to do in order to find more of those opportunities is to just Google and get Googling. You can Google your industry, you can Google your area, and you can find whatever suits you, because entering a business awards is really a learning exercise. As business owners, we often have the opportunity to give feedback to our customers. We have the opportunity to give feedback to our team members that we're leading. But often as business owners, we're quite isolated, and there's not really an opportunity for us to get feedback ourselves. So I first started entering business awards simply and purely for that reason. The ability to be able to get some feedback for myself on how I was going in all of the different areas of my business. And there are many, many different areas of business. And if you're a business owner like me, you like to target or you like to focus on the ones that you're good at or the ones that you enjoy. And doing a business award submission really gives you a good understanding as to where the areas are that you really do need to work on, perhaps those areas that are a little bit more neglected than others. So the main reason why I enter business awards is for that learning. It is for that ability to be able to reflect on what we've done. I talk about how, my process for this has evolved over years. So we've been working hard at entering lots of different business awards for the last 9 years. And the cycle normally goes like this. I sit down to write the submission. I think, oh my goodness, I've got so much to talk about this year. And I write the submission, answer the questions, and I get to the end of it and I go, yes, I feel great. That's fantastic. Good job. Pat myself on the back. I enter the business awards, whatever happens, happens. And then the next comes around and I think I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to last year's submission, have a read through, and then I'm going to add to that. And every single year, without a doubt, I read through the submission. I go, that was garbage. How did I think that was fantastic? And then the cycle starts again. I enter again, I sit down, I go, no, this year's really it. And I'm typing and I'm typing and I'm typing and I read through all of it and I, do several drafts and I get to the end and I go, yes, I've really nailed it this year. And then again, it comes to this time next year and I read it and I go, God, how did I think this was decent? This is garbage. And then off we go again. So you're really going to find the process for yourself is one of growth and one of, it's a process that's going to evolve over time. And so don't be too hard on yourself when you go back and read after perhaps a couple of months or perhaps 12 months, the submission that you have written before, because you are going to grow so much as a person, so much as a business owner, and so much as an award entrant as well. So I really do encourage you to keep those on file, if for nothing else than having a good laugh. But for me, the business awards, as much as I like trophies, it's more about the ability to be able to reflect and learn and reading back on those old submissions and thinking, oh, I've got so much more to say about that topic than I've actually put in last year's submission. And then being able to add that and bring that for the coming year is really useful. It's also a really, really good way to be able to see where you're falling down and where you have gaps in your business. For the first couple of years that I entered, I would get to questions and I would just think, I've got no answer for this question whatsoever. I don't even know what I'm writing about. And workplace health and safety is the example I often use when I'm talking about this. And I have some examples that we're going to go through a little bit later. And workplace health and safety is one of those. Because for me, in the early days, I was like, I think we do things safely in my workplace. I just had nothing to say about it. I had nothing to write. And that has evolved. And so I've really between that moment of having nothing to write about and then the next year when I had to do another submission, I was really concentrating and thinking about things that I would see around me and events that would happen and things that would trigger those moments where I was like, well, actually, that's health and safety. Oh, we did that really well in terms of health and safety. And I would make a mental note of these things as they occurred during the year so that the next time I sat down to do another submission, I wouldn't have that moment where I was like, what am I going to write? So in terms of a learning process and in terms of filling those gaps in your business where you perhaps fall down, doing a business award submission is a really, really quick and easy way to be able to make it really clear to yourself exactly where you're at and how you're going with that. And that all feeds into, I talked before about feedback. As business owners, it's good for us to get feedback. We learn from feedback. We can improve from feedback. And so if we're not going to get it from anywhere else in our business, doing a business award submission is a really great way for us to give ourselves some feedback and go, I answered that really easily. Oh, I didn't answer that so well. So it's a really good learning tool. Who gets involved in business award submissions? Well, one of the best things about doing entering a business award section is the fact that you get to tap into the great resources you have around you. So all of the stakeholders in your business can be part of the awards process and the award submission. Do not think it just has to be you and that all of a sudden you've got this massive weight on your shoulders of you've got to try and write all these things and think about all these things. I always start by brainstorming some of the questions with my team. What do you guys think about how we should answer this? What do you guys think about our customer service? What do you guys think about how we're doing workplace health and safety? And, making dot points or making a recording of all of those bits and pieces kind of are a great way to feed into the submission itself. And then, of course, your team is then invested in what's going on. And I do the same for my customers as well. So asking them how we do with customer service, asking them, what we do in terms of innovation is really great in terms of feedback because you can really get a good understanding of how you're going from your customer's perspective. And then if you also get some great testimonials, you can use them as part of your submission as well. And then, of course, the best part is that whilst your customers have then had feedback and buy into the process, your teams had buy into the process as well. They've helped you craft those answers. Then, of course, if you make a finalist status, then it's a great opportunity for you to invite your entire team out or invite some of your clients, your customers, and really make a big deal of the night itself. And whether you win or whether you lose, and we've been there, in both situations, it's a really great bonding get together moment. And it's something that now my team really look forward to. They're actually kind of bummed because we are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame at our local business chamber, which means we can't enter for 2 years. And so they're like, what are we going to do? What's our big social night going to be? Because they are used to us doing it every year, them buying the new dress and then getting all dressed up and us all going out together. And that's been a really nice experience for us as well. So I encourage you not just to keep it in a silo. Don't just keep it inside the walls of your office. Really share the entire experience from the start through to the end with the people that mean a lot to you in your business, all of the key stakeholders in your business. And you will find that it's so much more of a rewarding process when that happens. You may also have the opportunity to enter categories for your team. And that's really, I can highly recommend that as well. We were lucky enough, I have entered several times, but we were lucky enough one of the years to win Employee of the Year, one of my team members. And so that was, doubly as thrilling to be able to share, the fact that we had won with the fact that she had won and really reward her for all of her hard work. So that was a really nice year. And I really encourage you where possible to be able to lift up your team and to encourage them to get involved as well. So whereabouts can you enter business awards? Well, I said before that you've got to get on Google and get sorted. But, the different kinds of awards and the scope of which you need to enter, the requirements for entry can be really different. So the Telstra Business Awards and the Telstra Business Women's Awards have really lengthy submissions. They take 20 to 30 hours to complete. They happen on an online portal that you can log into every day. You have to have secondary supporting documentation that goes with that. you know, it's a really big undertaking. But in saying that as well, you get out of it what you put into it. And so because it is so much of an effort and it is so much hard work, you really get a lot from that, because the questions are quite varied. They change every single year. There's no copying and pasting with those awards. And so it's really a great way for you to think really broadly about your business, and to really complete a submission with a lot of intention. So those are kind of the big kahunas. They are the big ones that you're aiming for. And then you can come through to your local chamber awards, which there's a variety of different categories you can enter when it comes to your local chamber. There are judged categories and there are industry categories, and each of them have different requirements in terms of how much work you need to put into them. Of course, many business awards have people's choice categories as well, where you have to, rally everybody in town to vote for you, or you have to cut out things out of the paper and send it to your friends and make sure that everybody is involved in that process. So it's really up to you as to how you want to, how involved you want to get. And then of course there are business awards that you can do that are paid. So there are lots of different, in different industries, there are lots of different avenues for being able to participate in business awards, where you actually get to pay to enter, and then you get to go through the process from there on in. So there's lots of different ways that you can go around it, and there's also lots of different avenues and different costs involved in terms of your time and in terms of your money. So I encourage you to get Googling. And if you ever have any questions, or if you ever find something and you want to know whether it's something that I've been involved in or other people have been involved in, I tend to do a lot of research myself as well. So feel free to send me an email and we can chat about the ones that you're looking to do. And of course, right now it's business awards season. And so it's really great every year to kind of put it into your calendar. Of course, I was talking before about the investment that you're going to need to make in terms of your time and money. So that's something that you need to factor into your calendar as you're planning out your year. It's one thing to say, I'm going to enter, 16 different categories or 16 different awards. But when it comes down to it, you really do need to set the time aside. So be really specific about the awards that you are going to enter. Don't overload yourself. Don't give yourself so much to do and so many things to answer that it all becomes too hard and then you don't enter anything. Really try and pace yourself, because it's really rewarding when it's done well. But it's important to make sure that that you're being kind to yourself as part of the process as well. And of course, entering the business awards means that there's a variety of photos that you get that are taken on the night. And I have a whole folder of photos that's called Stacey at Business Awards with her mouth open, because I tend to get very excited, whether it's when the announcements are being made, or whether I'm walking up to the stage or I'm on stage, or it seems to be a bit of a running joke with me and my team for now. So it's always good to see those candid moments and to relive those, which I really enjoy. We're now going to get into a little bit of the how, because I know for so many of you, business awards is something that you may have done before, but you may not have done well. It may be something that you've done before and you really want to kind of level up what you've been doing and try and do it better. And for some of you who just haven't even tried to tackle it and are here thinking, what is this woman going to tell me about how to do the business awards? Can't she just do it for me? I'm going to try and give you as much information as possible to make it really easy for you to enter for yourself and for your business. So let's have a look. Where shall we start? Let's start with customer service, because of course, there's always going to be a customer service question. That's always something that is going to come up. So get excited, get your pens and paper ready. So when it comes to your answers in your business awards submissions, I used to just get excited and just go blah, 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 with all the information that I could. And I got some really good advice 2 years ago in terms of being able to separate out my information and to be able to block out pieces of information. So now I use headings and subheadings in all of my answers for all of my business award submissions. So if there was a question about customer service and how we do customer service, or talk to us about your customer service, tell us about your customer service, what kind of experience do your customers have when dealing with you and your organization, any of those questions, I would divide it into different categories. So I'd firstly be talking about the business itself, the customer service within the business. So how do we give great customer service? Well, we give individual attention. We're unique for all of these different reasons. We have a quality product or a quality service for all of these different reasons. We foster relationships with our clientele. We foster relationships in our community. We are working hard to grow our tribe. We are giving consistency in our customer service so that all of our people are having the same experience, no matter who they're dealing with at the desk or no matter who is serving them in the shop. We try and build loyal followers. So we entice our customers to keep returning to us and to keep coming back to us, because that's also really important. We have a culture of encouragement. We like to encourage our customers to try new things. And how do we go about that? We care about our customers and telling people exactly why and how we do that. In my business, we talk about mentoring in terms of mentoring not just the kids that we teach, but mentoring our customers in terms of our parents in bringing them along in their journey with us, because a lot of people that come to us are brand new. They've never done this before. It's completely, a lot of them come in quite shell shocked. And so we nurture them and mentor them along our customer experience. And we also talk about innovation. So we talk about doing things differently all the time. We talk about making sure that we are always evolving and always innovating, both the products that we're giving and also the services as well. Then I would talk about the community and how you give great customer service in the community. So we don't just, do great customer service within the four walls of our shop or on our website. We are out in the community sharing that great customer service with the community as well. So have a think about the way that your business interacts with your community. Have a think about collaborations that you have with other businesses. And some of these things might be just, things that you just do. And so you don't really think about them too much, but these are the kind of things that are absolute gold when it comes to putting together a good submission. So you want to talk about, that customer service that goes beyond your four walls. So in the community, what are you doing? Are you getting involved with local festivals? Are you participating in community parades? Are you giving back? Is there work that you're doing in nursing homes or for different demographics? Are you making donations to local businesses, local sporting teams, local organizations? Is there a scholarship program that you're helping out with? Are you part of an education fund? Do you have committees that are leading when it comes to certain events? Was your business involved when there was a natural disaster or something that happened? These are all things that you really, really want to make sure that you're mentioning. Do you show leadership in your local community? Are you on certain committees? Are you the person that's stepping up? Are you running community events? And that's kind of like what are you doing personally that because of the brand that you're developing in your business can, also be palmed off as something that the business is doing. And so then what else are you doing in terms of your industry? So you might be one of the only people that do what you do in the town that you do it, but do you then connect? Do you have networks with other people in your industry that are in other places? And are you building community amongst those other people working in your industry? Are you building those networks? Because that is, again, all stuff you want to talk about when it comes to the experience that the customer is having when it comes to dealing with you and your brand. I want to talk about the customers themselves when it comes to customer service. So I want to talk about how they interact with us online and also how they interact with us offline. I want to talk about how I'm consistent all the time in terms of my communication. I want to talk about how quick we respond to inquiries and how there's, several different options for how people can pay. I've written cafe there because for us at Port Macquarie Performing Arts, that's a really big upsell for us in terms of our customer service, even though it has nothing to do with us. So we encourage our dance mums when they bring their twinkle toe along to, drop them off at the door and sign in and sanitize, COVID safe, and then go and get themselves a coffee at the cafe. And that just, encourages the entire experience, not just for the little ballerina that's in the room, but also for the parent that's dropping them off and therefore the entire family unit. So thinking about customer service, not just in terms of that one-on-one interaction, but the entire experience that happens around your business. And then we talk about communication. So the communication would be another heading that I would use under customer service. And I would talk about how I have meetings with my clients, how I have meetings, before they join us and whilst they're with us, and, when they graduate, we take so many photos and are posting them left, right, and center on all of our social channels and on the news page of our website. And we're getting them out there as much as possible. So there's lots of transparency in our communication. We have a great online presence. We use the app Bonjoro to be able to send videos to our customers, to be able to say, just, hi, I'm just checking in. Hope you're having a great day. Is there anything I can help you with? And that's a really quick and easy way that we do that. And then in terms of communication, we also have a Y series that is part of a Facebook Live campaign that I do with our customers to fill them in on the whys in our business that perhaps they wouldn't know before. And then you want to talk about how you're measuring it. And this is the gold, because you can say, I'm fantastic till the cows come home. But if you can't prove that you are, then your submission is not going to get through to the next level. So once you've said that you do all these fantastic things, you really want to be able to let the judges know exactly how you know that that is working. And you might think, well, I don't have any measurement of customer service that I'm doing on a regular basis. And so this is a great example of one of those areas in which you can think, okay, well, I don't have an answer for that part of the question. So what can I do in the next 12 months to develop some kind of follow-up or some kind of measurement to make sure that I can figure out how well our customer service is going? And some examples of this, can be as simple as somebody standing at the door and asking people who are coming in to give them a score from 1 to 5. It can be an online survey that you put together, that's free on a Google form that you send out to your customers and ask them questions about customer service. And then you relay those results into this category. And you don't have to put, 15 out of 16 people said this, but using percentages when it comes to having proof in your business award submissions is really, really important. So you want to show what that measurement is, no matter what it is that you're creating. And if you're having trouble getting your head around that, I've heard some doozies in my day of things that people have created to measure the things that they do in their business. Awards that they've given themselves in terms of the great things that they are doing, but whatever works, that you can actually prove that your customers are saying that that all the things that you've said in your submission are actually things that are happening and actually things that are true. You really want to make sure that all of your things are really followed up with that measurement. Okay, that's a lot, right? I'm going to take a sip of water. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We're going to do questions at the very end. But if you're thinking of something, I don't want you to then forget about it. And then when it comes to questions, you go, oh, I don't really know. So make sure you put it in the chat, and I will bring the chat up on my screen so that I can see your questions as they come through. And then we'll be able to hit them up at the very end. All righty. Time to talk about leadership. There's always a leadership question. And if you're worried about answering leadership questions, you will be surprised at the amount of examples of your leadership that you will have once you really start thinking about it and once you start unpacking it. So if the question asks you to talk about leadership in your organization, then you want to talk about yourself and you want to talk about your team. And in the first couple of years big confession time here, in the first couple of years that I entered business awards, I would sit at the computer looking at a blank screen going, am I a good leader? I don't really know. And then I would Google what makes a good leader. And then I would pick out the things that I thought kind of sounded like me. And then that would be part of my submission. I've since become a bit more aware of where my leadership shows up in my business. And I can, answer those questions a little bit easier right now. It's frightful that I can't see all of your faces in that I don't know if you're rolling your eyes at me, and you have permission to. But, for me, it was really about, I couldn't find the words to articulate what it was that I thought I did well. And Googling what makes a good leader was the best way to do that. So I've done it, and now I've confessed it to you. I tell you to go ahead and you can do that too. So I talk about my role and each of the roles that my team takes on. So I talk about what kind of leader I am for my team. I talk about what my role entails and what are the things that I actually do on a day-to-day basis that make me a good leader. I talk about the different roles of people in my leadership team, and I talk about what I do with those people in terms of how I encourage them to be better leaders. Because if the question is talking about leadership, it's not just going to be talking about the top of the triangle. It's going to be talking about how does your business demonstrate leadership across the board? Where are all the points of leadership? So if you're like me, you'll have people who are your customers who step up into leadership situations. You'll have many members on your team, whether they have an official title or not, that will step up into leadership roles. I have so many incredible students who step up in terms of leadership and are great mentors to the little people that we have running around the studio hallways. And so talking about leadership, don't just think, what do I do? But think, how do we show, where does leadership show up in our organization? So talking about what you do and the roles of your team and how you're encouraging leadership on all different levels of your business is really, really, really important. I talk about how I like to lead. I talk about, as a leader, and those of you who are in leadership, you will know that this is how you like to lead. This is how, on a good day, this is how it is. But leadership is a roller coaster. And so some days you get it right and some days you really don't get it right. And it's just about getting up the next day and dusting yourself off and moving on and moving forward. And that's okay to say as well in terms of your answers. And I probably should have mentioned that at the top. It's about telling a story and taking the judges on a journey to understand what your experience with your business and with all of these questions has been. So if leadership has been something that's been really tough for you, talk about it. If, you've had a really rough year in terms of, performance managing your team and maybe losing a team member and, having a new hire come on and not working out, you don't want to just paint rainbows and pretty flowers and say that everything is fine and dandy. You want to take the judges on a bit of a journey in terms of how you're going. So it's completely fine to be able to say, I like to lead like this, and on a good day it looks like this, but some days I really struggle with X, Y, and Z, and that's okay too. So I talk about, I like to have open communication. I have an open door policy. I have regular meetings with my team. We have, regular staff meetings in terms of a group, but I also, meet with my leadership team separately to that. I am doing my best at all times to make sure that I'm up to date with industry trends and that I am, infusing my leadership in that information. So I talk about the books that I read and the professional development that I'm doing and the fact that I'm always learning in order to improve on that leadership. And that's often a way to, if you do come up against a question that you really sit there and you go, I have a blank piece of paper and I don't know what to write, start by saying, okay, this is what I've learned. I'm not there yet, but this is how I'm working on it. And these are the things that I've been doing in order to get myself closer to getting there. And then, of course, don't just talk about leadership in the four walls. You have to talk about it in the community in the same way that you were able to branch out in terms of your customer service and what your customer service looks like to your wider community. You want to do the same thing for your leadership. So you want to talk about any panels that you're sitting on and groups that you're contributing to. You want to talk about being on committees, whether that's for, local or interstate or national events. You want to talk about any volunteer roles that you have at. We always talk about events that we perform at. And so whatever the equivalent is for you in your business, perhaps you sponsor a local event and that you're always there for that fun run each year or for that charity walk or for that event. Because that's really important as well for people to see that you're giving back and that it's not just your business isn't just really looking inside and just about you. It's really about how you can display that leadership in the community for the wider community and how that goes on to impact other people. If you haven't written down impact and put a big circle around it yet, do. It's an important word to use, especially when you're putting together your business award submissions, because it's so easy to talk about what we do, but award-winning business submissions talk about the impact that we have on others. So you don't want to make yourself the hero. You want to make your customers the hero, and you want to be able to talk about how you help them solve the problem that you're solving. You want to help them have transformation in your life. You want to talk about the impact that your business has on your community. And then for me, in terms of my leadership, I talk about the students and my team and the mentoring programs that we have and how we are building leadership. So it's not just the leadership that currently exists. It's kind of like the succession plan for leadership. How are we creating young leaders and growing leaders in our organization in order to continue that leadership and that leadership trend throughout the organization? And then I like to talk about communication. I really feel like communication is something that comes up, and you can write a paragraph on communication for pretty much any of the questions that you get asked, because it is such an important part of business, and it's an important tool that you know how you do it and why you do it, and being able to explain that how and that why to the judges puts you in a really good position in terms of them really understanding how across your business and the impact that you're having, how you're across that, and it's not kind of just something that just happens. Everything that you write about in your award submission, you want to talk about it being on purpose. It might not have been on purpose, it might have just happened, but you want to talk about it being like, yes, of course we made that decision for that reason, because that's that. And so then I think it's also important, I talked about measurements at the end of the customer service section. You want to talk about measurements as well when it comes to leadership. And it's always good to give it a comparison. And it doesn't have to be that you've surveyed people about your leadership when it comes to this. You want to try and mix up your measurement in terms of each of the different answers that you're giving. So when it comes to leadership, I would give examples about retention, staff retention. You know, the leadership structure that we've had has been like this for 3 years. The staff turnover has gone from, 80% 6 years ago to 20% now. I would talk about leadership in that broad sense, and talk about how the things that you've just spoken about in terms of why you're a good leader and why leadership works in your business, what the actual tangible payoff of that has been. Because it's really important that you don't just say that you do all the fabulous things, but you actually show that that's actually happened, and this is how it's happened. And I said before I was going to talk about workplace health and safety. And this is because this is the one that used to always stump me, just completely stump me. And it wasn't that we weren't being safe in our workplace. It was that there's so many things about workplace health and safety that just feel like that's just how we do it. That's just why we do it. We're not we're not giving scissors to the children and asking them to run around with them. Like that. It's not something we would do, but the action of, making good choices there is something I could write about that I just never thought to write about. So I'm going to give you an example here for workplace health and safety, because sometimes you find in industry awards, they will throw in a workplace health and safety question just to kind of be able to divide people and move people, and for the finalists to become a lot clearer. So grab your notepad and pen just so that I can give you these hints and tips, and you can store it somewhere in a file that I know you'll pull out later on and go, yes, thank you for that. So, we have really safe training facilities at Port Macquarie Performing Arts. We invest incredible amount of money to ensure that our floors are beautifully sprung, that we have the latest tarquette, that the tarquette is well maintained, so that our dancers all have safe training facilities. But that was never something I thought to talk about, because of course we do. Why would we make our children dance on concrete, or why would they be dancing on unsafe surfaces? But again, it's about thinking about those things that you do all the time that are just things that you do because that's what you do. These are things that you can put in your submission as well. So we talk about the how and the why of those safe training facilities. We talk about the amount of investment that we've put into that. We talk about the maintenance of that, and we talk about what the impact, there's that word again, put a big circle around it, is when we do the right thing. And then there's heaps of things that happen in terms of policies and procedures on a weekly, fortnightly, monthly, yearly basis that are based around safety that we just do because we do. So have a think about in your business the things that you do that you perhaps aren't, that aren't top of mind, that you are that you are doing to ensure the safety of both your customers and your team. And then talk about them, talk about why you choose to do them. And it may be something as simple as, we clean every day. We make sure that the floors are clean so that nobody slips over, so that everybody, maintains a safe work environment. Things like that. Get yourself started. You may find that you can, cut some things out later on, but just get started when it comes to trying to put your finger on all of those things that you perhaps don't think about. When it comes to workplace health and safety, we talk a lot about the staff training that we do. We do oodles of professional development in my organization, so much so that some of my team just can't stand learning anymore. They're just like, let me do it already. But I love professional development, so we do heaps of it. And I hadn't thought about the way in which that can kind of work in to our workplace health and safety as well. But, things like we're doing our first aid certificates, we're doing our CPR certificates, we are learning the latest stretching techniques and things that we should be doing with our students now that are, more safe than what we thought we were doing 2 years ago. And we talk about those learnings and the things that we do now that are different to what we did before, because that's really important as well. And so if you are doing professional development with your team, or if you're sending your team off to do PD elsewhere, put it in your submission later on. Team members have been part of this training and this training and this training, and this is why, and this is how it feeds into workplace health and safety. And then, of course, you have to show the measurement and talk about the results. So you can talk about the fact that, because you've been cleaning the floors on a daily basis, you've had 0 falls on the floor in the last 12 months, or, it's gone down from, 8 people fell down last year and 2 people fell down this year. Show those measurements, show those things that are working, and try and link back to all of the policies and procedures that you will find that you will talk about in this category. Link back to the things that are really working, and find your own way to measure that and put that in your answers, because it's all fine and dandy to say that you've got the safest place in the world to work. But if it turns out that, 2 of your staff have broken their ankles in the last year, you probably don't. So you want to talk about how you're measuring it to make sure that they understand that you're not just saying that you do these things. There's often a question that says, what would it mean to you to win this award? And you have to avoid saying, well, I just really like trophies and prizes. Or saying, well, I am the best at what I do, so I should win. Or something like that. And these are the 2 answers that I often give, mostly because they're true. I do like trophies, but really what I spoke about at the beginning, in terms of this being a feedback process and a learning process for me, as corny as it is, I always say, I'm already a winner because I've had this learning experience. And then I also talk about in terms of what it will mean, not for me, but for the community of people that are around my business. So I talk about the fact that I'm a mentor to the young people that I teach. So when I win, or when the business is rewarded, they are also rewarded for their hard work. I talk about the community, in terms of the community that we're building within our organization, our tribe of people. So I talk about, what the impact is for myself, for then my team, the follow-on for my team, the reward for them working so hard. I talk about the community and the assurance that they all get from then, knowing that they've made a great decision to be associated with my business. I talk about the arts as a whole, because we represent dance in our area, and so for the wider community it's great for dance to have a platform, and that's so important for the arts. And you make it not about you make it about the impact that it's going to have for other people when it comes to winning that award. I mean, of course, I've never spoken to somebody who's just written, well, I'm the best and I should win. And maybe that works as well. I've just never tried it. So there's been plenty of business awards that I've entered and haven't won. And maybe that's why. So do whatever feels right for you. These are the answers that feel right for me, as corny as number 1 is. But see how you feel. And I guess above all, for any of the questions that you're answering, you want to give a genuine response. You want to make sure that your answer is authentic and that it is true. Let's talk about some of the do's and don'ts. So you want to make sure that you are asking for feedback and that you are asking for help from your team and your customers. In the first couple of years that I entered Business Awards, I kept it very much in my own little world. I was too embarrassed to show anybody the submissions because I wasn't terribly confident with my writing style. And what if I had spelling mistakes? And I don't really know how to answer that question. And what I learned was that as soon as I actually was brave enough to step out and say, are there any school teachers out there in my community that would like to proof this Business Award submission that I've done? Or, I would target those lovely customers of mine who were, raving fans and say, can you just read this and see if it sounds okay? I would give it to my team and say, have I missed anything? Was there anything else that we did that I should include in this? Once I started, having the courage to be able to not keep it to myself and to share the love, gosh, the whole process became so much easier. So the advice I have for you is don't keep it to yourself. If you have a paragraph that you're thinking, this just doesn't sound right, and I don't know what else to write, and I don't know how it works, stick it up on your Facebook page and say, does this sound okay? And people will chime in and help you. People will want to be involved in the process. You just have to really reach out and be a little bit vulnerable in that moment in order to get that feedback. Remember to check your work. Remember to give yourself enough time that you can check your work. I've, in that process that I talked about at the beginning where I said that, often I would read back on last year's submission and go, what garbage? Often it was garbage because some of the sentences didn't make sense or some of the sentences were so long. I get very passionate when I'm talking about my business. And so I would be like, da, 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 and I would have sentences that could be broken into 4, but I was just rambling the entire time. So give yourself enough time to check your work. Get somebody else to check your work. Make sure you've gone over your work before you hit the submit button. Don't just get so kind of overwhelmed with the entire process that you just throw your hands in the air and send it and hope for the best. Always check your work. Always use headings. And I kind of tried to give you examples today of the different kind of headings that I use, but see if you have common themes, break things down. Use an opening and a closing statement either side of the actual answer that you give that answers the question. I also really work hard to answer the question. And often I didn't necessarily do a lot of that in the early days. I would just see leadership and I'd go, oh, cool. Oh, this is everything I know about leadership. You really want to answer the question. If the question is broken into 2, if it says, talk to us about your leadership style and, a common issue that comes up in your business, that's 2 different things. So talk to us about your leadership style, put a heading, leadership style, answer that part of the question. And then you want to put example of an issue that keeps coming up, put a heading for that, answer that question under that. Don't confuse the judges. Don't give the judges any chance to think that you haven't answered the question. Spell it out. Here's where I'm answering this part of the question and here's my examples. Here's where I'm answering this part of the question and here's my examples. And here's where I'm tying it all together in a beautiful closing statement. So you want to think about it in terms of kind of like an essay. You want to open it, you want to give your examples, and you want to close it up at the end as well. And really try your best to stick to the word limit if you can. My big don't is don't leave it till the last minute. Easier said than done. These things creep up on you. And if you are in Port Macquarie and thinking of entering the Port Macquarie Business Awards, they close on the 15th of June. And whilst we are at the end of May, we will turn around twice and it will be here. So get working on it now so that you've got plenty of time to check your work. When I say don't be humble, I don't want you to, of course, make stuff up. But this is not the time to kind of go, oh, I think we're okay at business. Kind of people like what I think they like what we do. Yeah. No, this is the time to brag and shout it from the rooftops. And it's really important to be able to share that passion that you have for your business and to share that pride you have through your words. You want that to really come out and to be really evident in each of your responses. So this is not the time to step back, really step up and step out and really go for it. Don't have long sentences that have lots to say. Make sure you break it up. I talked before about long paragraphs that had, 4 different sentences all stuck in the one sentence, separated by commas and separated by ands. That's not a thing, Stacey. And that's what I've learned. So you really need to break it down. Don't have long sentences. Really try and break it up where you can. And finally, don't just enter in one category. Give the tough ones a go. The tough ones is where the learning happens. The tough ones are where you really learn about yourself, you learn about your business, and you learn where you're falling down and where you've got room to move and where you need to work a bit harder. And then guess what? It encourages you to work a bit harder because you know that you're going to have to do this again next year and you actually want to have something better to say for this entry. So I have, where possible, try and enter every category that I have time to do. Of course, I prioritize. I think, okay, what's going to be number one? If I'm only going to have time for one, what's it going to be? If I'm only going to have time for 5, what are the 5 going to be? But it's important not to put all of your eggs in one basket. You want to be learning across a broad range of areas. So I really encourage you not to just enter one category, to find one that scares you and just give it a go. And if you want some assistance, and if you open it up and you are on a blank page, then flick me a DM on Instagram and say, I don't know how to get started on this question. And I will, flick it straight back to you in a second, because I get very excited in terms of entering business awards and figuring out how other people's businesses work in terms of this framework. Okie dokie. I've got a little bit to go, but I thought I might pause and see if there are any questions, any people with questions out there. Anyone got anything pressing that they would like to jump on and bring up with me? I can't seem to see you on my screen. So you'll have to jump in the chat and put your hand up, or simply unmute yourself and come on and go for it. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm glad that you're here. And for those of you who heard me promise that I wouldn't bring you onto the camera, I'm sorry if you do have a question and you want to come on. Though you don't have to turn your camera on. It can just be your voice. Any questions? Anybody completely overwhelmed? The idea was not to overwhelm you, but instead to be able to give you lots of jumping off points. So I hope that you've been able to make some notes. And if you haven't, please don't stress. You'll get a copy of the replay to be able to go back through, and you can play it and have me, preaching in the background when you're actually sitting down to write your submissions themselves. Liz says, I like it. You're giving great ideas. I'm glad, Liz. There's lots of things that I have to say. Jackie says, no, I'm excited to get started. I've got lots of notes. Connie says, can you write an entry for me? Well, Connie, as a matter of fact, I'll go pretty close. If you'd like a little bit of help, extra help with your submissions, then I've got spots for 5 different businesses to get on board of a business reward session that I'm doing. So the idea is that you put down into your dot points, or you put down into an actual submission if you want to craft it yourself, the ideas under any of the topics for any of the business awards that you are entering. And then we get together and brainstorm how you can improve on it and how you can ultimately kind of grab the attention of the judges. And I can share all of my learnings for each of the different categories under each of the different topics with you. So it works by you putting together your list of dot points, your list of notes. You send that through to me and give me 24 hours notice. We jump on a 30-minute call. I give you feedback. We do it together. We try and get stuck into it. Then you make the edits and then you send it off. I'm only doing 5 because for lots of you, I know that the deadline is coming up pretty quick, and I don't want to promise that I'll do 20 of them and then have to let people down. So we're just going to do 5. We're going to put 5 in the diary, and it's going to come up pretty quick. So if you would like to make sure that your name is on one of those spots, then just flick me an email at hello@simplystaceymorgan.com. Do that right now before you forget, and then I'll be able to get in touch with you tomorrow and find your time, which will also be great for your accountability, because you will know that in 2 weeks' time or in 1 week's time, you are going to be meeting with me, which will mean that you will actually have to sit down and make some time to get started on your business award submission, which I know for some of you is thing. Connie says, I bags a spot. Absolutely. Just flick me an email, Con. We'll get started. That'll be great. So thank you so much for joining me. You know, I'll talk all day and every day about how much business awards and entering business awards have really made a massive impact, not just on my business, but on my growth as an entrepreneur, on my growth as a leader, on my confidence in terms of running my own business. And most importantly, it's really made me feel like I was not alone. For so many years in the beginning of running my own business, I really felt like it must be only me that is struggling with my team. It must be only me that's struggling with this customer that's driving me crazy. It really, you know, it was me that's laying awake at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking, how am I going to make payroll? When actually, when we're all in business, there are so many things that we are working on all the time, and so many things that are either working or not working, and that we're riding the roller coaster with. And so it's been a really lovely journey for me to be able to go through the process of getting better at answering different questions, to be learning more about my business and how I can do things better in my business, but then most importantly, sharing that with other business owners. And I've made some great friends and made some great connections with other people who have entered business awards. And, you know, we have really fun rivalries between us when we all find ourselves finalists in the same categories. And that's been a really rewarding part of business that I didn't expect from just sitting down and doing a business award submission. All credit has to go to my business mentor, Glenda Hamilton, who was the person in the first place who said to me, Stacey, you're going to enter. And I said, are you kidding? I'm very busy. I've got a really long to-do list and other things to do. And she said, no, you were going to prioritize this and you were going to do it because it's going to be a massive learning for you. And I cannot tell you the over-exaggerated eye roll I gave Glenda when she told me that. But what I can tell you is that, holy moly, was she right? And did it just completely change the way that I thought about my business and the way that I now run my business. And I know it can do that for you too. So if you're on the fence, or if you're thinking, you know, I don't have time for this, make the time for it, because it is going to be so valuable. And I want to hear that experience from your perspective as well. Give it a go. Just pick one category, jump on in, give it a crack. You know, jump on one of our sessions and I can give you some feedback, and then see how you go. And if you don't get the bug for it and, you know, really start doing it year after year, I will be completely shocked. And I know there are people on the call here who were in that boat, were people who said to me, nope, that's not me, I'm never doing that. And that now you're quite addicted. Speaking of, Vicky Morris in the chat's just said, that sounds like me, and I finaled in 4 categories last year. Ha 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 ha. Yes, you did. And that would never have happened if you weren't brave enough to step out and do it, Vicky. So snaps for you, because you did the hard work and you deserve it. So these are all the places that you can find me if you want to look for me. I'm on Instagram at Simply Stacey Morgan. I'm on Twitter at Dance Stacey. Port Macquarie Performing Arts, if you want to check out what we do as a business, you can find us on Facebook and also on Instagram. But hello at simplystacey.morgan.com, or my website, simplystacey.morgan.com, is where you can find out how to get in touch with me. And I would love to connect with you and join you in this business awards journey, because it's very rewarding, and I cannot rave more highly about it. So thank you so much for joining me today and for making the time, especially I know Thursday nights are quite difficult. You've got a million things going on, but I really appreciate you tuning in. And the replay will be off to you tomorrow. And if you have any questions, please get in touch, but email me at hello@simplystacey.morgan.com if you want to work with me and make sure that we can get the very best thing in front of the judges when it comes time. You don't want to go to all of that effort and then not do as well as you could just because you didn't make that little investment. So I'm here to help you. Please reach out. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.